According to General Hospital spoilers, the preview video for the week of July 21st to 25th will focus on Drew Cain and Willow Tate's wedding. However, this may not happen if Curtis Ashford reveals the groom's secret affair with the bride's mother, Nina Reeves. Weddings rarely go as planned in the arena of daytime drama, and Drew and Willow's nuptials will be no exception. The ABC soap has just released its preview trailer for this week, and it appears to be another explosive 5 days in Port Charles, so let's get to it. The teaser begins with Willow at Portia Robinson's hospital office, where the co-chief of staff furiously informs the nurse that she has no idea who her fiancé is. The next scene in the GH preview has Curtis promising Portia in her office that he will fight to defend her, even if it means betraying a friend. As he says this, a scene depicts him entering Willow's bridal suite as she prepares for her big day. Drew appears severe in a brief video clip, while Willow appears stunned. Will Curtis inform Willow about Nina and Drew's affair? This looks like the case. As the General Hospital preview concludes, Nina is shown conversing with Ava Jerome. It appears to be the wedding day, as both women are dressed in more formal apparel than usual. Nina is outraged as she informs her best friend that she cannot stand by and watch this happen any longer. As Nina says this, a scene of the church is displayed, with all of the wedding guests seated and waiting for the ceremony. Nina is in the front row, with Liesl Albrecht beside her, and Ava and Rick Lansing are in the pew behind her. Meanwhile, Alexis Davis, Martin Gray, and Kai Taylor are in the pew opposite the groom. Lucy Coe is at the altar, evidently serving as the couple's officiant on their wedding day, with Drew standing by her. As the commercial ends, Scout Quartermain is shown walking down the aisle while Drew smiles at his daughter. However, Willow is nowhere to be seen. General Hospital spoilers suggest that the week of July 21st to 25th may be the moment most viewers have been waiting for, as Willow will most likely uncover the truth about Drew, stop the wedding, and possibly become a runaway bride. After spending some time fantasizing about a future with Jack, Carly's feud with Lucas over what happened to Marco brings her back to reality. Lucas has every cause to be paranoid, and he's far from alone. Willow has been acting suspiciously. With the wedding approaching, her mother may be the one who pushes her over the brink if she reveals the truth. But what has Ava so rattled, and why has Jason suddenly become nostalgic? Where does Kelly Thibault fit into the equation? In the weekly spoiler video, Portia and Curtis are determined to stop Willow from marrying Drew, but Nina would go to any length to prevent her daughter from marrying the congressman. Monday's GH July 21st, Carly and Brennan talk about the future. Dante offers Anna food for thinking. Jason becomes nostalgic. Vaughn issues a severe warning to Joss. Brooke Lynn is in for a surprise. Jack Carly is ready to go home on Tuesday's GH July 22nd. Laura receives alarming information. Isaiah encourages Portia. Sidwell issues an announcement. Lucas expresses his suspicions. Martin has some news for Tracy. Laura goes against Tracy's wishes. Soap spoilers. New post notifications. GH spoilers for July. New GH comings and going. Subscribe. Wednesday's General Hospital, July 23rd. Jason is determined. Dante and Lulu are frightened. Nina searches out Drew. Portia has a discovery. Willow's behavior raises concerns. Nina Drew door. General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, July 24th. Liz reunites with Albrecht. Nina wants to take action. Willow and Scout exchange heartfelt words. Alexis has a candid conversation with Drew. Trina keeps her ground. Liesl slaps Liz. General Hospital recaps soap spoilers for Friday, July 25th. Willow and Drew's wedding day is fraught with drama. Carly and Lucas have had enough. Michael confides in Christina. Ava is rattled. Lucy extends an invitation. GH General Hospital spoilers reveal that Dr. Liesl Albrecht has returned to Port Charles and is immediately reading to protect her family. She has promised Nina Reeves that she will uncover evidence to present against Drew Cain in order to free her niece Willow Tate from him. So far no one has beaten Drew. It would take someone equally devious and deceitful, and Liesl fits the bill perfectly. Liesl Albrecht is unrelenting in her pursuit of Drew Cain. If she is determined to defeat Drew, she will. She's gone after some of the worst. Drew, like Peter August, will have a difficult time defeating her. Liesl would undoubtedly be able to find what she needs against Drew. She could discover that he has been using a variety of manipulative tactics to achieve his goals, and Liesel could certainly gather evidence against him. Liesel Albrecht threatens Drew Kane. Liesel has noticed Willow's changes since she left town and believes she is under Drew's spell. She does not like this at all and wishes to end their relationship. Liesel would threaten Drew, telling him that he would let Willow go or else. Drew would reject, but Liesel has warned him, and Drew is unsure what he is up against. Liesel would inform Drew that he had till the wedding to end things with Willow or face the consequences. Liesel Albrecht kidnaps Drew Kane. Drew and Willow's wedding day arrives, and Liesel informs Drew that his time is up. Now that he had refused to call off the wedding, she would inject him with a syringe, and Drew would collapse. Willow would be devastated when Liesel abducted him, and made it appear that he had skipped the wedding. Willow would be extremely perplexed and saddened by the turn of events. Liesel would continue to hold Drew captive until he agreed to her requirements, and she would enjoy torturing him in the meantime. Liesel torturing Drew would be a delightful spectacle to watch. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you think Liesel will get the best of Drew? Will Liesel make Drew split up with Willow? Will she kidnap him on his wedding day? Keep watching General Hospital, which airs on ABC weekdays, to find out what happens next. The ceremony was meant to be beautiful. Willow had clung to the concept of this wedding as a new beginning, not only for her and Drew, but for everyone who had suffered in the previous years. Willow wanted something easy after her hard struggle with cancer, everything Michael had put her through, and all the silent sacrifices she'd made for peace. Something wonderful. Something that belongs to her. Drew, for his part, had maintained a consistent presence. He wasn't as showy or surprising as Jason. Drew didn't come with the complications of mafia life, and unlike Michael, he didn't harbor grudges or use love as a weapon. He'd been there for Willow at her darkest moments, through every hospital visit, difficult conversation, and sorrowful goodbye to the life she previously knew. Their friendship had developed not out of passion, but out of survival, out of comfort, out of the mutual pain of betrayal and loss. This had to imply something. The Quartermain estate was alive with activity. Lois had taken over flower arrangements, while Brooke Lynn had choreographed the music as if she were conducting a rock concert. Olivia was flitting between rooms, attempting to keep everyone calm, while Monica remained a mute observer, unsure of her true feelings regarding Drew's decision. And then there was Nina, smiling, composed, clutching a flower as if she hadn't just ruined lives a few months prior. Curtis had not planned to say anything. He had come as a favor to Portia, who insisted on seeing their faces despite the ongoing hostility between their families and everyone else in the room. But as he watched Nina flutter through the ceremony as if her hands were free of secrets and betrayals, something inside him snapped. Perhaps it was the weight of what he had lost. Perhaps it was Trina's frigid stillness. Perhaps it was simply that Nina had gotten away with too much for too long. The moment arrived right before the vows. The visitors had taken their seats. Willow stood at the archway, while Donna and Wiley held flower baskets. Drew was waiting at the altar, his jaw stiff with tension. Nina stood by Willow, adjusting her veil and whispering words of consolation, just loud enough for Olivia and Carly to hear. It was nearly perfect. Then Curtis stood. He did not raise his voice. He didn't create a scene. But his words sliced through the air like a knife. Before anyone says "I do," maybe someone should ask Nina about her affair. The resulting stillness was abrupt and crushing. Everyone turned to look at him. Nina blinked slowly, the color fading from her face. Drew furrowed his brow, questioning whether he had heard correctly. Carly stood up halfway, her hand grabbing the back of her chair as if she were about to pounce. Curtis wasn't lying. He did not pull any punches. He discussed late-night discussions at the Metro Court, of whisperings behind closed doors, of phone records and well-timed trips to Manhattan. It hadn't just been a flirtation. It had been genuine. What about the other party? Sonny Corinthos. Willow's legs buckled, and Nina reached out for her reflexively. But the bride pulled away, as if she had been touched by fire. Her veil dropped to the ground. Olivia hurried forward, attempting to save the moment, but there was no turning back. Drew turned to face Nina, startled. Is this true? Nina couldn't lie quickly enough. It's complicated. These words proved everything. That was all Carly needed. You lied to everyone, Carly snarled, marching up to her. You ruined my life over a secret, and all the time you were sleeping with my ex-husband? Nina was cornered. Nobody believed her. Not even Ava, who had supported her through worse. Willow, still dressed in her wedding gown, turned to Drew, who appeared as puzzled as she was. We can't do this, Willow whimpered. Not like this. Drew paused. He wished to be her safe spot. He wanted to go ahead with it. But this moment was contaminated. The peaceful strength between them was fading. Willow never completely let go of Michael, no matter how hard they tried to appear differently. And Drew had never completely trusted Nina. The guests began whispering. Curtis stayed along the aisle, avoiding Portia's stare. Trina stood transfixed alongside Jocelyn, unsure what would happen next. Brooke Lynn went forward and stole the microphone from the artist. Everyone, please give the bride and groom some space. But there was no going back. The ceremony dissolved like wet paper. Willow escaped the garden, fleeing barefoot through the grass while Donna pursued her. Drew followed, calling her name, but she did not pause. In the hours that followed, the Quartermain mansion was empty. Olivia attempted to rescue the food for what she referred to as a family meal. Ned made a show of pouring drinks. Michael arrived late, and his presence just made everything worse. Willow refused to come downstairs. Carly cornered Nina in the lobby and told her, "You won't come back from this." Surprisingly, Ava remained silent. Perhaps she already knew. Perhaps she had suspected the affair and thought it was not her concern. But witnessing the aftermath in real time, watching Willow's hopes disintegrate, experiencing Drew's shock, made her question her quiet. Ava walked away without saying anything. Drew stood alone on the back patio, looking out at the garden where the arch still stood. The flowers suddenly seemed ridiculous representations of a moment that never happened. He desperately wanted to go on, to create something with someone who did not remind him of loss. Except now he felt nothing except shame. Nina called him. She attempted to explain herself. She described it as a fleeting moment of vulnerability. She said that it was over. But Drew did not respond. He let the call go to voicemail and then banned her phone. Willow finally emerged just before midnight. She was barefoot, wearing a robe, and her hair was still put up from the wedding. Drew was still there, waiting as he always did. "I'm sorry," she replied quietly. He didn't ask what for. They both knew. "I expected this to feel different," Willow added. "I thought I was ready." "You were," Drew replied kindly. "You just didn't have all the facts." She sat next to him, watching the moonlight cast shadows on the lawn. For a minute they only breathed. Two people are trying to figure out how everything becomes so broken. "I don't think I can marry anyone right now," Willow confessed. Drew nodded. "I understand." His voice was not angry, only resignation. He hadn't lost her to Michael officially, but he realized he'd never completely had her either. Meanwhile, in another part of Port Charles, Nina stood in her apartment, surrounded by unopened gifts and unreturned texts. Sonny had not returned her calls either. Whatever they had shared was suddenly a loaded rifle aimed at her reputation. Curtis had pulled the trigger. She poured herself a glass and looked at her reflection in the window. This was not how things were meant to go. She had battled her way back from exile, deceit, and mistakes that almost lost her everything. And she was back to square one. Perhaps worse. Curtis, sitting alone at the Savoy, questioned whether he'd done the right thing. Portia would not speak to him. Trina had departed with Spencer, her disappointment unspoken but audible. Nevertheless, he couldn't keep pretending. Secrets in this community were always revealed eventually. Better he do it than someone with a grudge. The next morning, Port Charles awoke with 1,000 questions. The disastrous wedding was spoken about on society pages. The hospital personnel speculated. The Quartermains closed ranks. But the harm was already done. And among the ashes of what was intended to be a lovely new beginning, Willow and Drew were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. No matter how beautifully planned, love could not withstand a lie. Especially not one that ripped out the basic core of trust. They had attempted to escape the devastation of their pasts. However, the secrets they had hidden resurfaced, crashing into their futures like a speeding automobile. And not everyone got away unscathed. Nina had always been known for her impulsiveness. Her emotions were strong, and once she had made up her decision, Nothing could stop her. Lately, those sentiments have been boiling just beneath the surface, especially after all of the tension between Willow and Drew and the revelations of secrets. When she learned of Willow and Drew's wedding, it wasn't just the normal sour sense of rejection or isolation. It was something more. Nina felt compelled to intercede, not out of malice or maternal instinct, but because she really worried the repercussions of the wedding taking place under such tense and suspicious conditions. The wedding day arrived in Port Charles with a fog of tension. Even while the light was shining, the persons involved were casting their own shadows. Drew insisted on carrying out the ceremony despite Michael's increasingly erratic behavior and the silent displeasure of numerous family members. Willow, ever the peacekeeper, had tried to maintain the emphasis on love and unity, but her eyes revealed her disquiet. She had noticed Drew's recent avoidance of her questions. His concentration with business, the late-night phone calls, and worst of all, the underlying tension between him and Michael were indicators she couldn't dismiss. As visitors arrived at the location, murmuring filled the air. Everyone could sense something was wrong. Carly and Jocelyn exchanged uneasy glances, both noticing Michael's absence. He was scheduled to give a speech at the reception, but no one had seen him since the previous night. Meanwhile, Nina stood at the rear of the ceremony area, hands clasped around her phone, fighting the impulse to cause a disturbance. She was not there to endorse the union. She was there because she didn't trust Drew and had a sneaking suspicion that Willow was making a life-changing mistake. Back at the Quartermain house, Dante and Lulu were attempting to enjoy a rare moment of peace before traveling to the wedding. Their relationship had evolved into a delicate balance of unresolved tension and mutual devotion. But that morning Lulu discovered something disturbing. An anonymous message on her phone, which contained images of Drew with a shady-looking man behind the Metro Court. She showed photos to Dante, and they both recognized the man as someone Drew knew from his time in Pentonville. The message was simple. "Are you certain this is who Willow should marry?" They both realized they couldn't ignore it. As a cop, Dante was used to dealing with ambiguous situations, but this one was personal. He had seen how Drew had changed since his return, and while he had previously given him the benefit of the doubt, recent events had left him apprehensive. Lulu pushed him to act swiftly, so they decided to approach Drew before the vows were exchanged. They didn't want to start a scandal unless absolutely necessary, but if Drew was concealing information that could endanger Willow or anybody else, they had no alternative. Willow walked down the aisle with a calm grin, disguising her inner distress. Her clothing was exquisite, simple, and traditional just like her. But when she caught eyes with Drew, she realized something. His eyes moved nervously to the entryway, as if he expected someone to interrupt. She followed his gaze quickly and noticed Nina standing motionless, her face inscrutable. Willow attempted to shake it off, but a small voice inside her told her that something was seriously wrong. Dante and Lulu crept in just as the officiant began his opening remarks. They searched for Michael, but he was still absent. They surveyed the room, hoping to capture Drew's eye. Nina moved in just as Lulu began to approach the front. She moved forward, her voice powerful and clear, stunning the guests. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Nina murmured, ignoring the gasps. "But this wedding shouldn't happen until everyone knows the truth." Willow's face turned pale and Drew tightened, attempting to maintain control of the situation. "This is not the time, Nina," he remarked, trying to remain cool. "No," Nina replied, moving closer, her voice quivering with urgency. "You lied to her. You have been encountering people from your prison days. You've been hiding it. And now Lulu and Dante have proof." Everyone looked at Dante and Lulu, who nodded gravely. Dante brought out his phone and showed Willow the photographs, which she looked at in surprise. Drew attempted to speak, but she raised a hand. "Why, Drew?" she inquired, her voice cracking. "What more haven't you told me?" Drew tried to explain, stating the man in the photo was someone he'd been assisting with finding work. A second chance, nothing more. But Willow had already began to retreat emotionally, the trust between them eroding piece by piece. She took a step back, holding her bridal bouquet with shaky hands. Outside the venue, Jocelyn was urgently calling Michael, who had yet to arrive. Her calls went to voicemail. Finally, someone from security arrived with disturbing news. Michael's car had been discovered abandoned near the docks. His phone was inside the car and the engine was still warm. Police had already been notified, and the timing could not be worse. The word of Michael's absence quickly spread, adding to the turmoil. Carly rushed out of the ceremony, leaving Sonny, who was already unhappy with Nina for raising a fuss, to deal with his son's sudden disappearance. He couldn't help but wonder if Drew was involved, or if the Corinthos family was being targeted. Willow stood trapped inside, caught in a crossfire of betrayal, horror, and dread. Her wedding was collapsing before her eyes, with her fiancé suspected of deception and her brother missing. She wasn't sure whether she should run or fight to save what was left of the day. Nina, though upset, remained steadfast, convinced that she had done the right thing. Lulu approached Willow softly. "You don't have to decide everything right now," she said quietly. "But you have to know. I'm sorry it turned out this way." Willow nodded numbly. Drew looked sad as he tried to explain his case, but no one was listening. The ritual was effectively completed. In the hours that followed, turmoil turned to confrontation. Carly returned with Dante to assist in the search for Michael, as Jocelyn and Christina attempted to calm Willow. Drew attempted to grab a quiet time with Willow, but she requested space. "I need time, Drew," she explained. "I need to know what's real." Nina walked away softly, unsure whether she had helped or exacerbated the situation. But Lulu, still gripping her phone, couldn't stop wondering who sent the anonymous message in the first place, and why. It wasn't only about Drew. Someone was organizing a wider plan, using information to destabilize those closest to Sonny and Carly. Michael's disappearance could be the next step in that plan. Dante, fully immersed in detective mode, began putting the pieces together. He and Jordan followed up with security footage from the docks. A hazy image showed Michael being approached by a tall man dressed in a dark coat, who fit the description of the ex-con Drew had met. This sparked even greater concerns. Was Michael being silenced? Was Drew manipulated? Meanwhile, Willow was alone in her dressing room, gazing at the tattered edge of her veil and the crushed bouquet on the table. Everything she thought she understood was called into question. She had adored Drew. She had imagined a world in which things were straightforward, safe, and anchored. However, safety appeared to be an illusion. And love? She didn't know where that was anymore. The wedding had become a battleground of secrets, betrayal, and terror. The guests had left, the decorations had already been taken down, and Willow was left in the ruins of a day that was intended to be a fresh start. An unidentified stranger lighted a cigarette and gazed at a tablet device displaying images of the chaos. The scheme had worked. The wedding was a disaster, the Corinthos family was in disarray, and Drew's carefully cultivated image was shattered. As the man made the call, he said only 3 words: "Phase 2 begins." Back in Port Charles, Sonny convened a secret meeting. He was not going to sit back and watch his family disintegrate. Someone was after them, therefore it was time to fight back. Nina's actions may have been motivated by emotion, but Sonny was now focused on strategy, and he wasn't about to let Michael go without penalties. Willow eventually changed out of her gown, brushing away the remains of her smudged makeup. She looked herself in the mirror and made a silent promise not to let this day define her, not to let anybody else decide her future again. Whether she ended up with Drew or not, she would be stronger. Because while love had failed her that day, clarity and strength had replaced it.